Hare Krishna, Hare Bol, everybody. Welcome to the Krishna book reading number 6. We're picking up on chapter 14, Brahma's famous prayers, from the deep humility that he was feeling when he realized his insignificance next to Krishna. So they're really powerful prayers. We'll start there, but really we'll start with Kirtan. Hare Bol. This is audio.
Got it. So come to your comfortable seat, sweet souls. Invite any movement. Rock your head, your neck. Release your jaw. Take a grounding breath to settle in together as we study the Krishna book together in Sangha tonight. Full breath in through your nose, fill up. Open your mouth, exhale, let it go. Start by honoring our teachers. Inhale, fill up. Radharani ki jai. Brahma Bhakti Satyam ki jai. Shastra Study Group ki jai. Haribol.
Om Jnana-timirandhasya Jnananjana-shlakaya Chakshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kripasindhubhya Eva Cha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Shri Vasari Gaura Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Hare Krishna. I just remembered actually what you reminded me last week. We haven't been chanting the invocation to the Krishna book, which is an oversight. It's not like you have to do it, but we get to do it. So if you look at the Krishna book, pull it up here.
Page 1.
Yeah, page 1 of the
introduction
of the printed. It's just the invocation or the introduction, right? So this is actually, I think we did this like when we first started.
Yeah.
But I forgot. This is a mantra that Lord Chaitanya actually sang. It's a song that he sang when he was on pilgrimage. It's a song for protection. The Lord Chaitanya, when he was a new sannyasi in the Jharikhanda forest, is a prayer for protection. So if you have it in front of you, and if you don't, you can go to the database, Krishna book introduction. We'll just chant it together. Krishna, 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 Hare. Krishna, 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 Hare. Krishna, 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 Raksha Mam. Krishna, 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 Pahi Mam. Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Rama Raghava, Raksha Mam. Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Krishna Keshava, Pahi Mam. Yeah, Krishna Bhakti Jai. So Pahi Mam and Raksha Mam are both different ways of saying, protect me, Krishna. So let's start with some reflections. We had a lot of nice comments in the WhatsApp. Let's reiterate them, at least. Anything that stood out from chapters 12 and 13. The Brahma Vimohan Lila, Brahma's bewilderment by Krishna.
I love how all of these chapters and all of these stories and all of these pastimes remind us of how Krishna is in relationship with all of us all the time. And it was in Tanya's reflection too, I was thinking about it. She's like, well, even with the demons, like he's got a relationship with the demons. And that I think we even talked about it a few classes ago, like God is God. And God has a relationship with all of us, no matter how we're showing up in the world, and he's teaching us and loves us all. You know, even if we're doing demonic things, he loves us in a way where he stops us, however, liberates, right? Not to say that that's how we are going to behave in our lives now, but there's also this just level of mercy, as we were speaking about. And it also just like gives hope for the future, you know, of our what's everything going on in our society, and even within my own anartas and my stuff that I'm working on, and that he just loves us all, and he's in relationship with us even when we are not aware we're in relationship with him.
Yeah, like Aghasura, after he was killed, was liberated, and there was that very graphic demonstration because the little soul particle actually leaves the body and then enters Krishna. And it's like, what did he ever do but try to murder a bunch of boys?
Right.
Well, Krishna's like, no, you know, Krishna's all fun.
It's just this,
all fun and no work.
Key for us all to remember.
Yeah. And I appreciate that point of like hopefulness, because we see that at the professional stage, the boys were just like, wow, that's a giant serpent. That's like bigger than anything I've ever seen before. Whatever. Let's just walk into it, because Krishna's right here. Like, what could possibly go wrong?
Yeah.
And he's like, all right, I guess I have to take care of him. And he does. Yeah.
Jai.
So I'm not there yet, but it's a nice demonstration of surrender. And that just like that snapshot of what it's like to be existing at the fearless platform. Yeah. Thank you. Any more reflections? Anything that stood out? Allison.
Oh, so I was thinking of how every chapter someone is trying to overcome and overtake and challenge Krishna. And then I was reading in the purport after Brahma took the cowherd boys, and it just simply says the lesson here is we should not try to overcome Krishna. Rather, instead of endeavoring to surpass him, we should just surrender to him. So, like, just every chapter, someone just keeps trying to overtake him, but the message is always the same.
And if you ever feel bad, just think about some of these great devotees like Indra and Brahma, who are actually like really on very close terms with Krishna, but they also make mistakes sometimes. See, the difference between a devotee and a demon is that not that the devotee doesn't ever try to surpass Krishna, it's just that when they realize what they're doing, they're like, oh, whoa, 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 whoa. I'm sorry, do over. And that's what we're gonna have here in chapter 14. Brahma's like, oh my goodness. And his realizations come from such a place of a contrition and humility that we can see that that's a devotee. That's actually what, not that devotees never make mistakes. This like that can happen, but that firm conviction of, okay, all right, I see what I did wrong. And whereas the demon was just unrepentantly trying to just destroy Krishna and his friends, even he got mercy too. But that difference is there, that the devotee can realize their error and have that kind of mea culpa moment. Thank you. Stacy.
Yeah, so one of the things, I mean, I wrote it in I'll reiterate, but because I can always reiterate like how great it is to have such mercy. And one of the things that that I saw, it reminded me, so I tried to think about it, how does that work in my life and resentments and things like that. And I thought I was going through a program that I'm starting, and in there are the 6 pillars. And one of the 6 pillars is apologize immediately. Like, and so that's kind of like what you were just saying just now, is that there's no mea culpa. We have mea culpas, like things happen, but if we apologize immediately, like we can get that, we can have a feeling like, I know for me, when I do that, I don't feel like merciless, but I feel like I am granted mercy by the people that I immediately apologize to. Like, if I, unless I wait. So, I mean, it's just similar to what you were saying, but that was something that stood out to me, because it's really unbelievable all that he goes through, all that Krishna goes through, and continues to show mercy and love and kindness and generosity and all of these beautiful things. And he, similar to the Pandavas, like, I mean, you kind of see it through the books, but it's beautiful. And so I connected it to the pillar.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That's really practical. Yeah, Krishna consciousness is the one-time decision. It's not like I chose it, so I'm good, or I screwed up, so I'm done for. It's a continual dynamic process. So if we ever feel like we've come up short in some way, that's just another opportunity to rededicate ourselves. And that's a really nice observation that Krishna, he puts up with a lot. He's constantly putting up with people like imitating him, lying to him, betraying him, trying to kill him, this and that. And he's like, never really backs down from his position of, yeah, but I love you. And it's really something to take shelter of. Thank you. And that obviously, like, there's that, yeah, like you said, there's that reflection that's how devotees can behave too, is that try to develop that quality. And you cited the Pandavas, like, yeah, Krishna puts the more advanced the devotee is, the more he puts him in like really, really tough situations to exemplify like what actually the greatness of a devotee is. That comes up a lot in the Bhagavatam. Aaron.
Really quick question, if I can. Something that's stuck with me from a few books ago was talking about surrender as giving in, not giving up. Is there a similar sort of way to couch mercy? Because I'm still trying to kind of wrap my head around that word, and it's coming up a lot since we started reading this book. And you can answer me later, but I'm just trying to put them in context.
Yeah. So how to kind of conceptualize mercy? Basically, mercy means that Krishna isn't obliged to do something. He's completely independent, right? So there's an expression, there can be no justice without mercy. Because if you have a justice system, then it's a series of laws. And if you break a law, then there's consequence. And nobody is actually in a system where there's no leeway for any adjustment, then there's no room to actually accommodate anybody. It's like, this happened, there's a consequence. And that statement, there could be no justice without mercy, indicates that you can't just, you lose something if you give yourself, if you give a society or a person or a situation over to just an impersonal rule. Krishna is not the servant of rules. He's not the servant of anything. He's the master. He's completely free and completely independent. So when he decides to grant somebody something, like Putana becomes liberated, becomes a resident of the spiritual world, it's what Prabhupada calls causeless. Nothing motivated it, nothing caused it, nothing was like forced it to happen. Krishna's, as Prabhupada also puts it, it's his own sweet will, right? So when someone does something because they're completely free to do it and for no other reason, and it's for your benefit, that's mercy. It's like, we don't actually have a relationship of, I earned this, Krishna, so you have to do this for me. Like, it's not like that. That's actually karma. Karma means you pay a price and you get the thing that you paid for. It's like you go to a merchant, you pay the price, give me, give me, give me. That's not bhakti. Bhakti means like, as Bhaktivinoda Thakur put it in a rather dramatic way, he said, you can save me or you can kill me. I don't even care. I'm always yours, as far as I'm concerned. That's all I'm interested in, is just surrendering to you. Whether I'm protected or not isn't my business. You do whatever you want with me. I'm yours. That's my business. And he sings about that. Bhaktivinoda Thakur does. That's the mood, because he realizes that I'm not here to ask something. I'm not here to like cajole or bargain or pay a price or do the formula or have a transaction. I'm just here to serve you because you're my Lord and I love you. And in a free relationship, everything is mercy. Nothing is actually like tit for tat. Well, I did this last week, so it's your turn to do it now. That's not really, a free relationship. It's like there's a bit of like a karmic kind of like, what have you done for me lately mentality? And Krishna is not that. Bhakti is not that. And so therefore everything's mercy. It's like every day is mercy. Every breath is mercy. It's all grace. It's all a free gift. Nothing is actually something that I deserve or I am entitled to. Every moment is a free gift. So those are some ways of conceptualizing. Hope that
So would you
helps.
say sort of like mercy is grace without cause, or compassion without cause?
Yeah. Compassion without cause.
Mercy is compassion without cause.
Free gift.
Free gift.
You ever heard the expression, and there's no such thing as a free lunch?
Mhm.
That's because the idea is that in this world, if someone offers you something for free, they're trying to get something out of you, It's like, I'll give you a free lunch, but I actually want to like get some advice. Or I'll give you a free lunch if you come and be part of my focus group or something. There's nothing is free in the world of karma. And that's what characterizes the material world. And Krishna is not like that. It is grace. It is a free gift. Just because he's that kind of guy. I mean, I'm saying that, but Prabhupada, he actually literally says that's the quality of his character. That shows the kind of person he is. Hope that helps. Any more reflections?
I have
Julia.
a reflection. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. Something I wrote down, which I hadn't gone back to, because I was like, where did that even come from? I wrote down the more that I love Krishna, the more I love myself. And in hindsight, I reread it and I thought, how did I just extract that from this story, what have you? But I was just thinking about it. And it feels like these stories, and the more that they help support me cultivate love for Krishna, they end up, really helping me to see myself more clearly. And I think to help even just like dissolve, yeah, the lens in which I see myself, if I'd see myself too harshly or whatnot. Um, and even, there's been a few times that I've been really pleasantly surprised by people in other groups or communities that know me. They'll come up to me and say, I read something about Radha, or I read something, or heard something about Krishna. And they come up to me with so much sincerity and say, I see you so much more clearly now.
Mm.
And I was just reminded of this, because I just feel like there's really so much peace and like contentment, I guess, that comes when not only I can see myself clearly and truthful in more truth, but also when others are also able to see me in that same way due to Shastra or Leela or however they've come across it. And um, it's in this moment, it's a sweet reminder to continue to hear Shastra and hear the Krishna Leelas in particular.
Yeah, there's a verse in the Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, I'm trying to remember the Bengali too. Krishna Shurya Shama Maya Hoya Andhakar Taham Krishna Nahi Maya Hoya Adhikar, something like that. That Krishna is just like the sun, and Maya, illusion, is just like darkness. And wherever the sun is, there cannot be darkness. And the idea is that when you see Krishna, you see everything, including yourself. So thank you for that reflection. Yeah. And we see other people in that light too. That's coming up a lot. That seems to be a theme right now for a lot of us, is that like learning to appreciate ourselves in the light of Krishna, because we're really seeing how he sees us. In many ways, like Krishna consciousness ultimately means coming to the point of getting closer and closer to seeing reality as it is, as Krishna sees it, instead of as I or any other conditioned soul sees it through our variety of lenses and filters of the modes of nature, right? Because we don't see things the way they are, we see things the way we are. And when we become closer to Krishna, we become more purified, we see things the way he is. And then reality becomes reality the beautiful, reality the lovable. That's his reality. That's reality. Thank you. All right. Ready to read chapter 14?
Mm-hmm.
This might change your life.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I'm just going to put it out there. I don't want to oversell it, but this might change your life. Chapter 14, prayers offered by Lord Brahma to Lord Krishna. Is someone write in the chat? I'll tell you in a second if someone wrote in the chat. Aaron says, we don't see the things the way they are, we see them the way we are. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a sutra. I use that. I got that from my guru. It's a nice way of remembering what the conditioned reality is. Okay. So just as like a reminder, Brahma is at this point, he tried to trick Krishna, then he felt like something is wrong, and he went back in a moment of his time, which is a year of Earth time, and he saw that actually things are exactly the same as if he did nothing, and he's completely flabbergasted by that, and he gets progressively more and more blown away by Krishna showing him these boys, and then they all manifest that they're actually Vishnu forms. They're directly the Lord. Each one of them is non-different from him, self-sufficient, completely the maintainer of everything. And he and Brahma is seeing himself and everyone in all these different forms. And then it's just blowing his mind. He can't handle it. And Krishna drops the whole thing and makes it simple and easy for him. And he pretty much comes to his senses, completely chastened, and this is what he says. Brahma said, "My dear Lord, you are the only worshipable Supreme Lord, the personality of Godhead. Therefore, I'm offering my humble obeisances and prayers just to please you. Your bodily features are the color of clouds filled with water. You are glittering with a silver electric aura emanating from your yellow garments. Let me offer my respectful repeated obeisances unto the son of Maharaj Nanda, who is standing before me with conch shell earrings and a peacock feather on his head. His face is beautiful. He's wearing a helmet and is garlanded by forest flowers, and he stands with a morsel of food in his hand. He is decorated with a cane, a buffalo horn bugle, and a flute. He stands before me with small lotus feet. My dear Lord, people may say that I am the master of all Vedic knowledge, and I am supposed to be the creator of this universe, but it has been proved now that I cannot understand you, who are present before me just like a child. You are playing with your boyfriends and calves, which might imply that you do not even have sufficient education. You are appearing just like a village boy carrying your food in your hand and searching for your calves. And yet there is so much difference between your body and mine that I cannot estimate the potency of your body. As I've already stated in the Brahma Samhita, your body is not material." End quote. In the Brahma Samhita, it is stated that the body of the Lord is all spiritual. There is no difference between the Lord's body and himself. Each limb of his body can perform the actions of all the others. The Lord can see with his hands, he can hear with his eyes, he can accept offerings with his legs, and he can create with his mouth. Brahma continued. Oh, Julia asks, can we have a short recap around the sweetness of him carrying the food in his left hand? Yeah, because that's like not technically correct, because you're supposed to do things with your right hand, like for eating, and left hand is for like bathroom stuff in traditional Vedic culture. And Brahma is the most, as he says here, how does he put it? Someone may say, I'm the master of all Vedic knowledge. He's the first hearer of the Vedas. It's in the Brahma Samhita before the prayers. Yeah, we hear about how he hears the sound of Krishna's flute. It enters his 8 ear holes, because he has 4 heads, as the Gayatri mantra, and he realizes the Vedas. So he's extremely learned. And here's this little boy who like doesn't even follow the rules. He puts it like this. He says, it implies you do not even have sufficient education. You're appearing just like a village boy carrying your food in your hand and searching for your calves. He looks like a little country bumpkin. It's like very rustic. But it's Krishna. It's actually the totality of everything. So Brahma was like even more amazed. So there's a little bit of a detail there. Krishna doesn't follow rules, like I said. It's not a servant of anything. He can break any rule he wants. Brahma continued, your appearance as a cowherd child is for the benefit of the devotees, and although I have committed an offense at your lotus feet by stealing away your boys and calves, I can understand that you have bestowed your mercy upon me. There's that word again. Your mercy upon me. This shows your transcendental quality of being very affectionate toward your devotees. But in spite of your great affection for me, I cannot estimate the potency of your bodily activities. It is to be understood that when I, Lord Brahma, the supreme personality of this universe, cannot estimate the childlike body of the supreme personality of Godhead, then what to speak of others? And if I cannot estimate the spiritual potency of your childlike body, then what can I understand about your transcendental pastimes? Therefore, as it is said in the Bhagavad Gita, anyone who can understand a little of the transcendental pastimes, appearance, and disappearance of the Lord becomes immediately eligible to enter into the kingdom of God after quitting the material body. This statement is confirmed in the Vedas, where it is stated simply by understanding the supreme personality of Godhead, one can overcome the chain of repeated birth and death. I therefore recommend that people should not try to understand you by their speculative knowledge. Yeah, that's a famous verse. Nane prayasa udapasinamanta evas 10:14:7. This whole chapter is full of famous verses. The best process for understanding you is to submissively give up the speculative process and try to hear about you, either from yourself, as you have given statements in the Bhagavad Gita and many similar Vedic literatures, or from a realized devotee who has taken shelter at your lotus feet. One has to hear from a devotee without speculation. One does not even need to change his worldly position. He simply has to hear your message. Although you are not understandable by the material senses, simply by hearing about you, one can gradually conquer the nescience of misunderstanding. By your own grace only, you become revealed to a devotee. You are unconquerable by any other means. Speculative knowledge without any trace of devotional service is simply a useless waste of time in the search for you. Devotional service is so important that even a little attempt can raise one to the highest perfectional platform. One should not therefore neglect this auspicious process of devotional service and take to the speculative method. By the speculative method, one may gain partial knowledge of your cosmic manifestation, but it is not possible to understand you, the origin of everything. The attempt of persons who are interested only in speculative knowledge is simply wasted labor, like the labor of a person who attempts to gain something by beating an empty husk of rice paddy. A little quantity of paddy can be husked by the grinding wheel, and one can gain some grains of rice. But if the skin of the paddy has already been beaten by the grinding wheel, there is no further gain in beating even a huge quantity of the husk. It is simply useless labor. My dear Lord, there are many instances in the history of human society where a person, after failing to achieve the transcendental platform, engaged himself in devotional service with his body, mind, and words, and thus attained the highest perfectional state of entering into your abode. The process of understanding you by speculation or mystic meditation are all useless without devotional service. One should therefore engage himself in your devotional service even in his worldly activities, and one should always keep himself near you by the process of hearing and chanting your transcendental glories. Simply by being attached to hearing and chanting your glories, one can attain the highest perfectional stage of entering into your kingdom. If a person therefore always keeps in touch with you by hearing and chanting your glories, and offers the result of his work for your satisfaction only, he very easily and happily attains entrance into your supreme abode. You are realizable by persons who have cleansed their heart of all contamination. This cleansing of the heart is made possible by chanting and hearing the glories of your lordship. End quote. So now Prabhupada's talking. The Lord is all-pervading. As it is stated by Lord Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita, everything is sustained by me. But at the same time, I'm not in everything. Since the Lord is all-pervading, there is nothing existing without his knowledge. The all-pervasive nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead can never be within the limited knowledge of a living entity. Therefore, a person who has attained steadiness of the mind by fixing the mind on the lotus feet of the Lord is able to understand the Supreme Lord to some extent. It is the business of the mind to wander over varied subject matter for sense gratification. Therefore, only a person who always engages the senses in the service of the Lord can control the mind and be fixed at the lotus feet of the Lord. This concentration of the mind upon the lotus feet of the Lord is called samadhi. Until one reaches the stage of samadhi or trance, he cannot understand the nature of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. There may be some philosophers or scientists who can study the cosmic nature from atom to atom. They may also be so advanced that they can count the atomic composition of the cosmic atmosphere, or all the planets and stars in the sky, or even the shining molecular particles of the sun or the stars and other luminaries in the sky. But it is not possible to count the qualities of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. As described in the beginning of Vedanta Sutra, the Supreme Person is the origin of all qualities. Impersonalists interpret this word nirguna as having no quality. Because they are unable to estimate the qualities of the Lord in transcendental realization, they conclude that the Supreme Lord has no qualities, but that is not actually the position. The real position is that he is the original source of all qualities. All qualities are emanating constantly from him. How, therefore, can a limited person count the qualities of the Lord? One may estimate the qualities of the Lord at one moment, but the next moment the qualities have increased. So it is not possible to make an estimation of the transcendental qualities of the Lord. One should not uselessly labor in mental speculation to estimate the Lord's qualities. There is no need of adopting the speculative method or exercising the body to attain mystic yoga perfection. One should simply understand that the distress and happiness of this body are predestined. There is no need to try to avoid the distress of this bodily existence or to attempt to achieve happiness by different types of exercises. The best course is to surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead with body, mind, and words, and always be engaged in his service. This transcendental labor is fruitful, but other attempts to understand the absolute truth are never successful. Therefore, an intelligent man does not try to understand the absolute truth by speculative or mystic power. Rather, he engages in devotional service and depends on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. He knows that whatever may happen to the body is due to his past fruitive activities. If one lives such a simple life in devotional service, then automatically he inherits the transcendental abode of the Lord. Actually, every living entity is part and parcel of the Supreme Lord and a son of the Godhead. Each has the natural right to inherit and share the transcendental pleasures of the Lord, but due to the contact of matter, conditioned living entities have been practically disinherited. If one adopts a simple method of engaging himself in devotional service, automatically he becomes eligible to be freed from material contamination and elevated to the transcendental position of associating with the Supreme Lord. Lord Brahma presented himself to Lord Krishna as the most presumptuous living creature because he wanted to examine the wonder of his personal power. He stole the boys and calves of the Lord in order to see how the Lord would recover them. Now Lord Brahma admitted this attempt was most presumptuous, for he was attempting to test his energy before the person of original energy. The scientists of the material world have invented wonders such as atomic weapons, and when tested in a city or some insignificant place on this planet, such powerful weapons create so-called havoc. But if the atomic weapons are tested on the sun, what is their significance? They're insignificant there. Similarly, Brahma's stealing of the calves and boys from Sri Krishna may be a wonderful display of mystic power, but when Sri Krishna exhibited his expansive power in so many calves and boys and maintained them without effort, Brahma can understand that his own power was insignificant. Brahma addressed Lord Krishna as Achyuta, because the Lord is never forgetful of a little service rendered by his devotee. He is so kind and affectionate toward his devotees that a little service by them is accepted by him as a great deal. Brahma has certainly rendered much service to the Lord. As the Supreme Personality in charge of this particular universe, he is without a doubt a faithful servant of Krishna. Therefore, he could appease Krishna. He asked that the Lord understand him as a subordinate servant whose little mistake and impudence might be excused. He admitted that he was puffed up by his powerful position as Lord Brahma. Because he is the qualitative incarnation of the mode of passion within this mature world, this was natural for him, and therefore he committed the mistake. But Lord Brahma hoped that since he was, after all, Lord Krishna's subordinate, the Lord would kindly take compassion upon him and excuse him for his gross mistake. Lord Brahma realized his actual position. He is certainly the supreme teacher of this universe, in charge of the production of material nature. Such a universe may be gigantic, but it can be measured, just as we measure our body as 7 spans. Generally, everyone's personal bodily measurement is calculated to be 7 spans of his hand. This particular universe may appear as a very gigantic body, but it is nothing but the measurement of 7 spans for Lord Brahma. Aside from this universe, there are unlimited other universes which are outside the jurisdiction of this particular Lord Brahma. Just as innumerable atomic infinitesimal fragments pass through the holes of a screened window, so millions and trillions of universes in their seedling form are coming out from the bodily pores of Mahavishnu. And that Mahavishnu is but a part of the plenary expansion of Krishna. Under these circumstances, although Lord Brahma is the supreme creator within this universe, what is his importance in the presence of Lord Krishna? Lord Brahma therefore compared himself to a little child within the womb of his mother. If the child within the womb plays with his hands and legs and while playing touches the body of the mother, is the mother offended with the child? Of course she isn't. Similarly, Lord Brahma may be a very great personality, and yet not only Brahma, but everything that be is existing within the womb of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Lord's energy is all-pervading. There is no place in the creation where it is not acting. Since everything is existing within the energy of the Lord, the Brahma of this universe and the Brahma of the many other millions and trillions of universes are existing within the energy of the Lord. Therefore, the Lord is considered to be the mother, and everything existing within the womb of the mother is considered to be the child. And the good mother is never offended with the child, even if he touches the body of the mother by kicking his legs. What a nice example. This is Brahma's humility here. Lord Brahma then said that his birth was from the lotus flower which blossomed from the navel of Narayana after the dissolution of the 3 worlds or 3 planetary systems known as Purloka, Bhuvarloka, and Svarloka. The universe is divided into 3 divisions, namely Svarga, Martya, and Patala. These 3 planetary systems are merged into water at the time of dissolution. At that time, Narayana, a plenary portion of Krishna, lies down on the water, and gradually a lotus stem grows from his navel, and from that lotus flower, Brahma is born. It is naturally concluded that the mother of Brahma is Narayana. Because the Lord is the resting place of all the living entities, After the dissolution of the universe, he is called Narayana. The word Nara means the aggregate total of all living entities, and Ayana means the resting place. In addition, he is the resting place of all living creatures. Besides that, Narayana is also present in everyone's heart, as confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita. In that sense, also, the Lord is Narayana, as Ayana means the source of knowledge as well as the resting place. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the remembrance of the living entity is due to the presence of the supersoul within the heart. After changing the body, a living creature forgets everything of his past life, but because Narayana, the supersoul, is present within his heart, he is reminded by him to act according to his past desire. Lord Brahma wanted to prove that Krishna is the original Narayana, that he is the source of Narayana, and that Narayana is not an exhibition of the external energy Maya, but is an expansion of spiritual energy. So the activities of the external energy, or Maya, are exhibited after the creation of this cosmic world. And the original spiritual energy of Narayana was acting before the creation. So the expansions of Narayana are actually Krishna's expansions, manifestations of his spiritual energy. They are not conducted by the material energy, therefore they are not temporary. Anything conducted by the material energy is temporary, but everything executed by the spiritual energy is eternal. Lord Brahma reconfirmed his statement, establishing Krishna as the original Narayana. He said that the Lord's gigantic universal form is resting on the water known as Garbhodaka. He spoke as follows. This gigantic universal form is another manifestation of your energy. On account of his resting on the water, this universal form is also Narayana, and we are all within the womb of this Narayana form. I see your different Narayana forms everywhere. You are the original Narayana. My dear Lord, in this incarnation you have proved that you are the supreme controller of Maya. You remain within the cosmic manifestation, and yet the whole creation is within you. This fact has already been proved by you when you exhibited the whole universal creation within your mouth before your mother, Yashoda. By your inconceivable potency of Yoga Maya, you can effect such things without external help. My dear Lord Krishna, the whole cosmic manifestation that we are visualizing at present is all within your body. Yet I'm seeing you outside, and you're also seeing me outside. How can such things happen without being influenced by your inconceivable energy? This is what happens when somebody who understands the Shastra inside out is brought face to face with Krishna as a little boy. It's like, he's everything, but he's outside of me looking at me, and I'm looking at him. Brahma is having that contrast. We talked about this at one point, rasa and tattva. Tattva means things as they are. Like the tattva of Krishna is he's the source of everything. He's above the material modes of nature. Brahma is basically giving like us a rundown, a complete rundown here on tattva, how he's the original Narayana from whom all the other expansions of the Lord manifest. And the rasa is that he's a little boy enjoying pastimes in Vrindavan. And the like apparent incongruity of that is moving Brahma to tears here. Lord Brahma stressed herein that without accepting the inconceivable energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one cannot explain things as they are. He continued, My dear Lord, leaving aside all other things and just considering today's happenings, what I have seen, are they not all due to your inconceivable energies? First of all, I saw you alone. Thereafter, you expanded yourself as your cowherd boyfriends, the calves, and the whole existence of Vrindavan. Then I saw you and all the boys and calves as four-handed Vishnus, and they were being worshipped by all elements and all demigods, including myself. Again, they were all wound up, and you remained alone as you were before. Does this not mean that you are the Supreme Lord, Narayana, the origin of everything? That everything emanates from you and again enters into you, leaving you the same as before? Persons who are unaware of your inconceivable energy cannot understand that you alone expand yourself as the creator, Brahma, the maintainer, Vishnu, and the annihilator, Shiva. Persons who are not in awareness of things as they are contemplate that I, Brahma, am the creator, Vishnu is the maintainer, and Lord Shiva is the annihilator. Actually, you alone are everything, creator, maintainer, and annihilator. Similarly, you expand yourself in different incarnations. Among the demigods, you incarnate as Vamanadev. Among the great sages, you incarnate as Parashurama. Among the human beings, you appear as yourself, Lord Krishna, or as Lord Rama. Among the animals, you appear as the boar incarnation, and among the aquatics, you appear as the fish incarnation. And yet you have no appearance or disappearance. You're always eternal. Your appearance and disappearance are made possible by your inconceivable energy just to give protection to the faithful devotees and to annihilate the faithless demons. O my Lord, O all-pervading Supreme Personality of Godhead, O Supersoul, no one can appreciate your transcendental pastimes as they are exhibited within these three worlds. No one can estimate how you have expanded your Yoga Maya and your incarnations and how you act by your transcendental energy. My dear Lord, this whole cosmic manifestation is just like a flashing dream, and its temporary existence simply disturbs the mind. As a result, we are full of anxiety in this existence. To live within this material world means simply to suffer and to be full of all miseries. And yet, this temporary existence of the material world appears to be pleasing and dear on account of its having evolved from your body, which is eternal and full of bliss and knowledge. My conclusion is, therefore, you are the Supreme Soul, the Absolute Truth, and the Supreme Original Person. And although by your inconceivable transcendental potencies you've expanded yourself in so many Vishnu forms, and also in the living entities and other energies, you are the Supreme One, without a second, the Supreme Super Soul. The innumerable living entities are simply like sparks of the original fire, your lordship. Persons with a poor fund of knowledge may think that because you are the son of Maharaj Nanda, you are not the original person, that you were born just like a human being. They are mistaken. You are the actual original person. That is my conclusion. You are the source of the original Brahma Jyotir, as well as the material luminaries, the sun, moon, and stars. Your transcendental effulgence is identical with the Brahma Jyotir. The Brahma Jyotir is nothing but your personal bodily effulgence. There are many Vishnu incarnations and incarnations of your different qualities, but all those incarnations are not on the same level. You are the original lamp. Other incarnations may possess the same candle power as the original lamp, but the original lamp is the beginning of all light. Because you are the original person, you are described in the Gopala Tapani Upanishad, as well as in the Brahma Samhita as Govindam Adi Purusham. Govinda is the original person, the cause of all causes. In the Bhagavad Gita also it is stated that you are the source of the Brahman effulgence. No one should conclude that your body is like an ordinary material body. Your body is akshara, indestructible. The material body is always full of threefold miseries, but your body is Satchit Ananda Vigraha, full of bliss, knowledge, and internality. Although you exhibited yourself as so many cowherd boys and calves, your transcendental potency was not reduced. You were always complete. As it is described in the Vedic literature, even if the complete is taken away from the complete, the Supreme Absolute Truth, it remains the complete Supreme Absolute Truth. And although many expansions from the complete are visible, the complete is one without a second. Since all your pastimes are spiritual, there is no possibility of their being contaminated by the material modes of nature. When you place yourself as subordinate to your father and mother, Nanda and Yashoda, you are not reduced in your potency. This is an expression of your loving attitude toward your devotees. There is no second identity to compete with you. A person with a poor fund of knowledge concludes that your appearance and pastimes are simply material designations. You are transcendental to both nescience and knowledge. As confirmed in the Vedas, Amritam Shashvatam Brahma. Brahman is the eternal, the supreme origin of everything, who has no birth or death. Let's pause here. This is halfway through the chapter. This is pretty thick. Pretty thick stuff. Let's see if we have any reflections or any questions. I'm just appreciating how Brahma is giving us such a rundown of tattva. He's so knowledgeable, and he's able to connect everything that he understands about the modes of nature, time, the universes, the expansions of the Lord with the Lord in front of him. And it really helps, at least it really helps me, because he's basically like weaving a thread through all of Shastra. Who's more qualified to do it after all than Brahma? Any comments or questions on the chapter so far?
You have what? If there's a space on this around what this anartha might represent?
Yeah.
So this would be after which one? What did we read last?
She's linked up the what anartha this pastime represents.
We haven't done Kalia right yet, right?
No.
Not the ass demon.
No.
Brahmana Vimana pastime. Lord
That's
Brahma
it.
says it.
Brahma Vimana pastime.
Mundane activities and speculative scholasticism.
Yeah, so hearing this pastime of Brahma stealing these boys and then the upshot of Krishna revealing what's happening and triumphing over him and humbling him, it purifies us of mundane scholasticism, the tendency to think that we can figure it out through our knowledge, education, and learning. Mundane activity and mundane learning.
So like material knowledge.
Yeah, or material knowledge and a material attitude towards spiritual knowledge. Right? Like I can figure it out if I study these books. Brahma is the most intelligent living entity. You know, he has access to the Shastra and he has a mind that can comprehend it beyond what we can by so many times. And even he was bewildered because he was stuck, at least in this Leela, he was stuck in the mode of like, I got this all figured out. He didn't really, at this point in the Leela, he hadn't manifested his surrender yet. So that anartha is what's being purified. That makes sense. Melanie?
Yeah, I was just gonna say that, which is great. That's interesting to hear that's what it represents. But I was just gonna say that this whole story reminds me of when we think we have control over our lives and we think we've got it all figured out. And then like Krishna like swoops in with his own plan that's, different than what we've figured out. And it's that same kind of sense of like, a lot of times where I am in this position where like, okay, I'm going to surrender this to Krishna, but then I'm also going to try to do this, this, and this to see if I can like help the situation along a little bit, So it's like, it's like that. It's like beginning to understand like where we have control and where we can surrender and where's the in between of that process.
Thank you.
So there is an in between.
Yeah, there's a perennial topic. The relationship between our agency and our surrender. Thank you. Okay, let's continue. Brahma continues. In the Upanishads, it is stated that the Supreme Brahman is as effulgent as the sun and is the origin of everything, and that anyone who can understand the original person becomes liberated from the material conditioned life. Anyone who could simply be attached to you by devotional service can know your actual position, birth, appearance, disappearance, and activities. As confirmed in the Bhagavad Gita, simply by understanding your constitutional position, appearance, and disappearance, one can be immediately elevated to the spiritual kingdom after quitting this material body. Therefore, to cross over the ocean of material nescience, an intelligent person takes shelter of your lotus feet and is easily transferred to the spiritual world. Right? Note how he's talking about, like, he's referring to Bhagavad Gita 4:7. One who understands my transcendental nature of my activities doesn't take birth again, but they come to me, Krishna says. But he's also affirmed, Brahma has, that this doesn't mean like figuring him out. He already said it. Don't try to I recommend not trying to figure out Krishna. I recommend staying wherever you are and in whatever position of life and humbly engaging in hearing and chanting. And by that, getting to know Krishna, by that conquering the unconquerable. In fact, that verse is in this chapter. It's a famous one. It's 10:14:7. If you want more on that topic of not trying to figure the Lord out, but submitting yourself to the process of bhakti and knowing him through that, 10:14:7. You can look it up in the Bhagavatam. So when he's saying like the importance of knowing him, he's saying the importance of figuring him out, because he tried and it didn't work. There are many so-called meditators who do not know that you are the Supreme Soul. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita, you are the Supreme Soul present in everyone's heart. Therefore, there is no necessity of one's meditating on something beyond you. If by the association of your devotees, a person comes to the knowledge that Lord Krishna is the original Super Soul, then it is possible for him to cross over the ocean of material ignorance. If one understands you, therefore, through your personal teachings, as stated in the Bhagavad Gita, or through the teachings of your pure devotees, as stated in Srimad Bhagavatam and all other Vedic literatures. If one realizes that you are the ultimate goal of understanding, he need no longer fear this material existence. So-called liberation and bondage have no meaning for a person who is already engaged in your devotional service, just as a rope is not fearful to a person who knows that it is not a snake. A devotee knows that this material world belongs to you, and he therefore engages everything in your transcendental loving service. Thus, there is no bondage for him. For a person who is already situated in the sun planet, there is no question of the appearance or disappearance of the sun in the name of day or night. It is also said that you, Krishna, are just like the sun and that Maya is like darkness. When the sun is present, there is no question of darkness. So for those who always remain in your presence by engaging in your service, there is no question of bondage or liberation. They are already liberated. On the other hand, persons who falsely think themselves to be liberated without taking shelter of your lotus feet fall down because their intelligence is not pure. If one therefore thinks that the supersoul is something different from your personality and thus searches out the supersoul or the supreme Brahman somewhere else in the forest or in the caves of the Himalayas, his condition is very lamentable. Your teachings in the Bhagavad Gita are that one should give up all other processes of self-realization and simply surrender unto you, for that is complete. Because you are the supreme in every respect, those who are searching after the Brahman effulgence are also searching after you. And those who are searching after supersoul realization are also searching after you. This was a topic of our Bhagavatam class on Friday, 1-11. You state in the Bhagavad Gita that you yourself, by your partial representation as a supersoul, have entered into this material cosmic manifestation. You are present in everyone's heart, and there is no need to search out the supersoul anywhere else. If someone does so, he is simply in ignorance. Instead of searching for the supersoul anywhere else, a devotee only concentrates his mind on you within. The example of thinking the rope to be a snake is applicable only to those who are still in ignorance of you. Actually, when one mistakes a rope for a snake, the existence of the snake is only within the mind. The existence of Maya, similarly, is only within the mind. Maya is nothing but ignorance of your personality. When one forgets your personality, this is the conditioned state of Maya. Therefore, one who is fixed upon you internally and externally is not illusioned. One who has attained a little result of devotional service can understand your glories. Even one striving for Brahman realization or Paramatma realization cannot understand these features of your personality, unless you bestow on him the result of at least a slight bit of devotional service. One may be the spiritual master of many impersonalists, or may go to the forest or to a mountain cave and meditate as a hermit for many, many years, but he cannot understand your glories without being favored by a slight degree of devotional service. Brahman realization or Paramatma realization are also not possible, even after one searches for many, many years, unless one is touched by the wonderful effect of devotional service. Therefore, my dear Lord, I pray that I may be so fortunate that in this life or in another life, wherever I may take my birth, I may be counted as one of your devotees. Wherever I may be, I pray that I may be engaged in your devotional service. I do not even care what form of life I get in the future, because I can see that even in the form of cows and calves or cowherd boys, the devotees are so fortunate to be always engaged in your transcendental loving service and association. Therefore, I wish to be one of them instead of such an exalted person as I am now, for I am full of ignorance. The gopis and cows of Vrindavan are so fortunate that they've been able to supply their breast milk to you. Persons who are engaged in performing great sacrifices and offering many valuable goats in sacrifice. This is in previous ages where you could sacrifice an animal and bring it back to life. Cannot attain the perfection of understanding you, but simply by devotional service, these innocent village women and cows are able to satisfy you with their milk. You have drunk their milk to satisfaction, yet you are never satisfied as much by those engaged in performing sacrifices. I am simply surprised, therefore, with the fortunate position of Maharaj Nanda, Mother Yashoda, and the cowherd men and gopis, because you, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, the Absolute Truth, are existing here as our most intimate, lovable object. My dear Lord, no one can actually appreciate the good fortune of these residents of Vrindavan. We are all demigods, controlling deities of the various senses of the living entities, and we are proud of enjoying such privileges, but actually, there is no comparison between our position and the position of these fortunate residents of Vrindavan, because they are actually relishing your presence and enjoying your association by dint of their sensory activities. We may be proud of being controllers of the senses, but here the residents of Vrindavan are so transcendental that they are not under our control. Actually, they are enjoying their senses through service to you. I shall therefore consider myself fortunate to be given a chance to take birth in this land of Vrindavan in any of my future lives. My dear Lord, I am therefore not interested in either material opulences or liberation. I am most humbly praying at your lotus feet for you to please give me any sort of birth within this Vrindavan forest, so that I may be able to be favored by the dust of the feet of some of the devotees of Vrindavan. If I am given the chance to grow as a humble blade of grass in this land, that will be a glorious birth for me. But if I am not so fortunate to take birth within the forest of Vrindavan, I beg to be allowed to take birth outside the immediate area of Vrindavan, so that when the devotees go out, they will walk all over me. Even that will be a great fortune for me. I am just aspiring for a birth in which I will be smeared by the dust of the devotees' feet, because I can see that everyone here is simply full of Krishna consciousness. No one here knows anything but the lotus feet of Krishna, or Mukunda, for which the Vedas themselves are searching. End quote. It is confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that the purpose of Vedic knowledge is to find Krishna, and it is said in Brahma Samhita that it is very difficult to find Krishna, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, by systematic reading of the Vedic literature, but he is very easily attainable through the mercy of a pure devotee. The pure devotees of Vrindavan are fortunate because they can see Mukunda, Lord Krishna, all the time. The word Mukunda can be understood in two ways. Muk means liberation. Lord Krishna can give liberation and therefore transcendental bliss. The word also refers to his smiling face, which is just like the Kunda flower. Mukha means face. The Kunda flower is very beautiful, and it appears to be smiling. Thus the comparison is made. The difference between the pure devotees of Vrindavan and devotees in other places is that the residents of Vrindavan have no other desire but to be associated with Krishna. Krishna, being very kind to his devotees, fulfills their desire because they always want Krishna's association. The Lord is always prepared to give it to them. The devotees of Vrindavan are also spontaneous lovers. They are not required to strictly follow regulative principles because they are already naturally developed in transcendental love for Krishna. Regulative principles are required for persons who have not achieved such a position of spontaneous love. Brahma is also a devotee of the Lord, but he is an ordinary devotee subject to following regulative principles. He prays to Krishna to give him the chance to take birth in Vrindavana, so that he might be elevated to the platform of spontaneous love. We experienced that this year when we went to Vrindavan, right? Taste of that spontaneous quality. Very special place, very special quality of bhakti. Lord Brahma continued, my Lord, sometimes I am puzzled as to how your Lordship will be able to repay in gratitude the devotional service of these residents of Vrindavan. Although I know that you are the supreme source of all benedictions, I am puzzled to know how you will be able to repay all the service that you are receiving from these residents of Vrindavan. I think of how you are so kind, so magnanimous that even Putana, who came to cheat you by dressing herself as a very affectionate mother, was awarded liberation and the actual post of a mother. And other demons belonging to the same family, such as Aghasura and Bakasura, were also favored with liberation and achieved you. Under the circumstances, I am puzzled. These residents of Vrindavan have given you everything, their bodies, their minds, their love, their homes, their possessions. Everything is being utilized for your purpose, so how will you be able to repay your debt to them? You have already given yourself to Putana. I surmise that you shall ever remain a debtor to the residents of Vrindavan, being unable to repay their loving service. So everyone is worshiping Krishna, but Krishna is worshiping his devotees. And Brahma is really exalting here the position of the residents of Vrindavan, that these are the best devotees. He's noting here through his logic that Krishna can't ever repay them. There's no question of ever being able to repay the selfless love that they're giving him. So they have a relationship where they're just constantly giving to each other more and more, and there's no end to it. There's no equality or finish line. And Brahma's on the outside in, looking in at this pure exchange of love with the supreme truth, and he's just deeply aspiring for that. He's hankering for that. My Lord, I can understand that the super excellent quality of the service rendered by the residents of Vrindavan is due to their spontaneously engaging all natural instincts in your loving service. It is said that attachment for material objects and home is due to illusion, which makes a living entity conditioned in the material world. But this is only the case for persons who are not Krishna conscious. In the case of the residents of Vrindavan, such obstructions as attachment to hearth and home are non-existent, because their attachment has been directed unto you, and their homes have been converted into temples by your constant presence there. And because they have forgotten everything for your sake, there is no impediment. For a Krishna conscious person, there is no such thing as impediments due to attachment for hearth and home, nor is there illusion. I can understand also that your appearance as a small cowherd boy, a child of the cowherd men, is not at all a material activity. You are so much obliged by their affection that you are here to inspire them with more loving service by your transcendental presence. My dear Lord, your Vrindavan pastimes are simply to inspire your devotees. If someone takes your Vrindavan pastimes to be material, he will be misled. My dear Lord Krishna, those who deride you, claiming that you have a material body like an ordinary man, are described in the Bhagavad Gita as demoniac and less intelligent. You are always transcendental. The non-devotees are cheated because they consider you to be a material creation. Actually, you have assumed this body, which exactly resembles that of an ordinary cowherd boy, simply to increase the devotion and transcendental bliss of your devotees. My dear Lord, I have nothing to say about people who advertise that they've already realized God, or that by their realization they have themselves become God. But as far as I am concerned, I admit frankly that for me it is not possible to realize you by my body, mind, or speech. What can I say about you? Or how can I realize you by my senses? I cannot even think of you perfectly with my mind, which is the master of the senses. Your qualities, your activities, and your body cannot be conceived of by any person within this material world. Only by your mercy can one understand to some extent what you are. My dear Lord, you are the supreme Lord of all creation, although I sometimes falsely think that I am the master of this universe. I may be the master of this universe, but there are innumerable universes and there are innumerable Brahmas also who preside over those universes. But actually, you are the master of them all. As the supersoul in everyone's heart, you know everything. Please, therefore, accept me as your surrendered servant. I hope that you will excuse me for committing the great offense of disturbing you in your pastimes with your friends and calves. Now, if you will kindly allow me, I will immediately leave, so you can enjoy your friends and calves without my presence. My dear Lord Krishna, your very name suggests that you are all attractive. The attraction of the sun and the moon are all due to you. By the attraction of the sun, you are beautifying the very existence of the Yadu dynasty. With the attraction of the moon, you are enhancing the potency of the land, the demigods, the brahmanas, the cows, and the oceans. Because of your supreme attraction, demons like Kamsa and others are annihilated. Therefore, it is my deliberate conclusion that you are the only worshipable deity within the creation. Accept my humble obeisances until the annihilation of this material world. As long as there is sunshine within this material world, kindly accept my humble obeisances. In this way,
Just forever, because if there's no sun, we're not.
Well,
existent.
311 trillion years is the lifetime of Brahma. That's the expiration date of the universe. 311 trillion, 80 billion. Not forever. But a long time. In this way, Brahma, the master of this universe, after offering humble and respectful obeisances unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and circumambulating him 3 times, was ready to return to his abode known as Brahmaloka. By his gesture, the Supreme Personality of Godhead gave him permission to return. I think this is illustrated. Do you want to look that up? As soon as Brahma left, Lord Krishna immediately returned to the bank of the Yamuna and rejoined his calves and cowherd boyfriends, who were situated just as they had been on the very day they had vanished. Krishna had left his friends on the bank of the Yamuna while they were engaged in lunch, and although he returned exactly 1 year later, the cowherd boys thought he had returned within a second. That is the way Krishna's different energies act. It is stated in the Bhagavad Gita that Krishna himself is residing in everyone's heart, and he causes both remembrance and forgetfulness. All living entities are controlled by the supreme energy of the Lord, and sometimes they remember, and sometimes they forget their constitutional position. His friends, being controlled in such a way, could not understand that for 1 whole year they were absent from the Yamuna's bank and were under the spell of Brahma's illusion. When Krishna appeared before the boys, they thought, Krishna has returned within a minute. They began to laugh, thinking that Krishna was not willing to leave their lunchtime company. They were very jubilant and invited him, Dear friend Krishna, you've come back so quickly. All right, we have not as yet begun our lunch, not even taken one morsel of food. So please come and join us and let us eat together.
It's the same picture that we looked at last week. Do you want to look at it again?
Sure, why not? Because we've come full circle. As far as they knew, nothing had changed.
We didn't eat without you.
You
We
walked in.
waited.
We waited. Oh, you just came right back. Haha, you missed us. But they didn't know that what Brahma was up to and how Krishna, its focus is not working so well today on this camera.
It's the portrait thing.
Is it the portrait thing? No more portrait mode. Portrait lighting. Away with you, portrait lighting. A little better. It's probably because it's trying to touch up my appearance or something. Low light.
You don't need to touch that.
Yeah. You know what? I want a focused picture of Krishna, and I'm not going to rest until I get it. Better? That'll have to do. There he is.
looks good.
Yeah,
Now touch yourself back up.
whatever.
Can I say something
Yeah.
or ask?
Yeah.
What I know there, like, there's so many things that like verses that I hear you've said or Kastuba has said, and I'm like, oh my God, there's so many things like you said in this book. I mean, in this chapter, just in this particular chapter, but the one that is standing out is the blade of grass. There's a quote.
Be like a blade of grass in the dust. Yeah.
But there's a quote, isn't there a quote in the Bhagavad Gita about as humble as a blade of grass, or?
That's from the Shikshastakam, Lord Chaitanya's 8 instructions, holy name. It's verse 3. Sranadapi sunichena tarodavasa hishnuna amanina manadina kirtani sadahari. One must be more humble than a blade of grass, more tolerant than a tree, ready to offer all respects unto everyone and not expecting any respect for themselves.
But
Because
that's
in such a state of mind, the verse
right?
says, one can chant constantly.
But that's a popular one, right? Like I feel like I've heard that a few times.
It's maybe like a top 20 verse quoted ever. It's really,
Yeah.
really
Okay. Yeah. So when it showed up here, I was like, oh, okay. The blade of
yeah,
grass.
Brahma is actually exemplifying that humility.
Right. He's basically saying like basically what they're saying in that quote is Brahma is saying, I don't care if I'm even a piece of grass outside. I'll be there because the dirt will still come from the people in Vrindavan. And it's okay if it's not right in there. I don't know, it's exciting. Sorry.
Good connection.
Good connection.
Mm-hmm.
Krishna
That-
smile.
I was gonna say, can I add to that, Shami Pras? It was so funny that Stacy, you shared that because I wrote Shashastakam in the margin on page 127, where he says, I'm not interested in either material opulences or liberation, which is another section of the Shashastakam. So it was like I was just like, what a beautiful, again, reminder of how to pray. We have Queen Kunti, we have the Shashastakam, now we have this beautiful Lord Brahma, Lord Krishna. I just, I saw the same thing. That's really cool.
In many ways, this is one of the great gifts of the Bhagavatam. It teaches us the method of approach, because pretty much always when we are brought along in a pastime between a devotee and Krishna, their exchange begins with these humble prayers in this mood. In fact, this thing of like wanting to be like a blade of grass, Uddhava, who I mentioned earlier, in the third canto is lamenting in the anticipation of separation from Krishna when Krishna is about to leave the planet. He's a very advanced devotee, not in Vrindavan, but he was sent to Vrindavan by Krishna. And when he did, he realized how advanced the devotees were, because they were exhibiting transcendental separation from Krishna. He prays in this way too, that I want to take birth as like a bush or a blade of grass in Vrindavan, because this is real advancement. Uddhava was a disciple of Brihaspati, the Brahmana teacher of all the demigods. He was the most brilliant person. He's a very advanced devotee in Dvarka. But when he saw the residents of Vrindavan and their love for Krishna, he was like, wow, I thought I came here to teach them, but I came here to be taught by them. So that prayer also comes from him, and so there's some famous prayers from him also. Bhagavatam is really like that over and over again in different ways and with different flavors. We can finish it or die trying. Krishna smiled and accepted their invitation and began to enjoy the lunchtime company of his friends. While eating, Krishna was thinking, these boys believe that I've come back within a second, but they do not know that for the last year I have been involved with the mystic activities of Lord Brahma. After finishing their lunch, Krishna and his friends and calves began to return to their Vrajabhumi homes. While passing, they enjoyed seeing the dead carcass of Akasura in the shape of a gigantic serpent. When Krishna returned home to Vrajabhumi, he was seen by all the inhabitants of Vrindavana. He was wearing a peacock feather in his helmet, which was also decorated with forest flowers. Krishna was also garlanded with flowers and painted with different colored minerals collected from the caves of Govardhana Hill. Govardhana Hill is always famous for supplying natural red oxides, and Krishna and his friends painted their bodies with them. Each of them had a bugle made of buffalo horn and a stick and a flute, and each called his respective calves by their particular names. The cowherd boys were so proud of Krishna's wonderful activities that, while entering the village, they all sang his glories. All the gopis in Vrindavan saw beautiful Krishna entering the village. The boys composed nice songs describing how they were saved from being swallowed by the great serpent and how the serpent was killed. Some described Krishna as the son of Yashoda and others as the son of Nanda Maharaj. He is so wonderful that he saved us from the clutches of the great serpent and killed him, they said. But little did they know that 1 year had passed since the killing of Akasura. In this regard, Maharaj Parikshit asked Shukdev Goswami how the inhabitants of Vrindavan suddenly developed so much love for Krishna, although he was not a member of any of their families. If you remember, when Krishna expanded himself as the calves and boys, the mother cows and the mother gopis exhibited a shocking amount of love for their Krishna sons and Krishna calves. And Maharaj Parikshit saying, why?
They didn't know that they were good.
Maharaj Parikshit inquired, during the absence of the original cowherd boys, when Krishna expanded himself, why is it that the boys' parents became more loving toward him than their own sons? Also, why did the cows become so loving toward the calves? More than toward their own calves. Shukdev Goswami told Maharaj Parikshit that every living entity is actually most attached to his own self. Outward paraphernalia such as home, family, friends, country, society, wealth, opulence, and reputation are all only secondary in pleasing the living entity. They please only because they bring pleasure to the self. For this reason, one is self-centered and is attached to his body and self more than he is to relatives, like wife, children, and friends. If there is some immediate danger to one's own position, he first of all takes care of himself, then others. That is natural. That means he loves his own self more than anything else. The next important object of affection after his own self is his material body. A person who has no information of the spirit soul is very much attached to his material body, so much so that even in old age he wants to preserve the body in so many artificial ways, thinking that his old and broken body can be saved. Everyone is working hard day and night just to give pleasure to his own self, either under the bodily or spiritual conception of life. We are attached to material possessions because they give pleasure to the senses or to the body. The attachment to the body is there only because the quote-unquote I, the spirit soul, is within the body. Similarly, when one is further advanced, he knows that the spirit soul is pleasing because it is part and parcel of Krishna. Ultimately, it is Krishna who is pleasing and all attractive. He is the super soul of everything. And in order to give us this information, Krishna descends and tells us that the all-attractive center is he himself. Without being an expansion of Krishna, nothing can be attractive. Whatever is attractive within the cosmic manifestation is due to Krishna. Krishna is therefore the reservoir of all pleasure. The active principle of everything is Krishna. And highly elevated transcendentalists see everything in connection with him. In the Chaitanya Charitamrita, it is said that a Mahabhagavata, or highly advanced devotee, sees Krishna as the active principle in all moving and non-moving living entities. Therefore, he sees everything within this cosmic manifestation in relation to Krishna. For the fortunate person who has taken shelter of Krishna as everything, liberation is already there. He is no longer in the material world. Anyone who takes shelter of the lotus feet of Krishna enters the boat for crossing over the ocean of nations. For him, this vast expanse of the material manifestation becomes as insignificant as the water in a calf's hoofprint. For one who is on the platform of Krishna consciousness, Vaikuntha, or the spiritual world, is not far away. He does not live within the material world where there is danger at every step. In this way, Krishna consciousness was fully explained to Maharaj Parikshit by Shukadeva Goswami, as he recited to the king the statements and prayers of Lord Brahma. So Parikshit asked why they became so dear to Krishna. And in that section, the words that Shukadeva Goswami uses is Atmanam Akilatmanam. He says you should understand Krishna to be the soul of all souls. Right? So this logic that Prabhupada's using is that like our body appears attractive because we're in it, right? Like if my finger gets cut off and I look at it disembodied from me, it's not attractive anymore. It's a hunk of flesh that it appears weird. You know, it's like it doesn't belong there. Right? A dead body is also not attractive. It's because of the presence of the self. And all the extensions of the self, be they familiar or ideological, they're all bound up because of this presence of the soul or other souls. But Krishna is the soul of all souls. Therefore, when he was present directly as the sons and daughters of the cows and the cowherd boys, everyone was more attracted. Make sense? These descriptions of Lord Krishna's pastimes with his cowherd boys, his eating with them on the bank of the Yamuna, and Lord Brahma's prayers unto him are all transcendental subject matters. Anyone who hears, recites, or chants them surely gets all his spiritual desires fulfilled. Jai. That's us. Thus, Krishna's childhood pastimes, his sporting with Balaram and the cowherd boys in Vrindavan were described. Thus ends the Bhaktivedanta purport of the 14th chapter of Krishna, prayers offered by Lord Brahma to Lord Krishna. Om Tat Sat. Wow. We got through one chapter today. It was a honker. It was a big one. Yeah. There's a lot of gems.
Like what?
Yes.
I have
Like what?
speculation is useless, wasted labor.
Yeah, like beating a husk grain of rice. It's like you get the little husk on the outside. It's like there's nothing in it. It's wasted labor. Hard work for its own sake. Thank you. What else? What else did you hear? Or think or question?
We try to figure Krishna out,
Don't try to figure Krishna out.
but that if we submit to the practice and the process, then Krishna reveals himself to us.
Yeah. Stane stita shtikatang tanuvang up here. That's the Sanskrit to that verse. Stane stita, stay in your position, stay wherever you are. Don't go to the hills, don't go to the mountains, don't go to the caves. Stane stita, just stay. And hear. Don't have to change what your position in life is. Just hear submissively and be receptive to that. And by that, it's described by Brahma. The unconquerable Lord becomes conquered. Ye prayeso jitachito pyasitais trilokyam. 10:14:7.
I'm fascinated by the fact that like Brahma and these other figures they don't understand. They don't understand their position in all of this. I mean, they know they're powerful, they know they're something, but the fact that they would even, try to play a prank on Krishna by stealing the boys and the cows, just like Brahma doing that, it's kind of mind-blowing.
Yeah, first of all for him, and then for the rest of us. I'm really glad he tried that. It's so educational. But it's amazing how the most advanced living entities, like the capacities of a demigod like Brahma, are so beyond us. But like from his point of view, Krishna is just so much beyond him. It's very equalizing. Like Brahma's like, you know what? Ras, demigod, I don't even care. I just want to be around those who actually get you, because I'm like never gonna figure you out. So all this, like, the whole material world is everybody fighting over position, you know. It's all just like resources and food and mating and victory and wealth. And it's just Brahma's like, I got it all, and it's not enough. It's not enough to actually figure you out. I want what they have. I want what the residents of Vrindavan have. And I'm prepared to be the most insignificant living entity, if that's what what will get me there. So it really just like throws the whole material game on its head. Thank you.
Thank you.
801. Another couple quick ones before we retire for the night.
I just want to say really quickly that there are so many different ways to be in love, to fall in love with Krishna, whether it's this book, which is just so like, this chapter makes me like, I feel like there's a love jamun juice rolling all over me. So you know what I mean? Like, it's so sweet. It's like, oh my gosh. And I'm just, my head is blown, my mind is blown. But then there's the Shashaskatam, or however you say it. Then there's like Sastra, like different ways to fall in love with him that way, or to figure him out that way. This is like such an easy way to be like, oh my gosh, I am in love. I'm in love, because it's just so easy.
We
And
do these instructions. We just hurt submissively. And you know, this is why I said before we started this chapter, it might change your life. I also said last week that I know devotees who just study this chapter every day for a whole month, because there's so much depth there. You see, when you come in proximity with the prayers and realizations of advanced devotees, you inherit a percentage of their bhakti, like just to the degree that you can submit yourself to that. We're all being like washed over with Prabhupada's realizations and then Lord Brahma's realizations. And it's really, really potent. Thank you for that. And Prabhupada said you should try to know everything about something and something about everything. So when you see that there's all these different aspects in bhakti that are like, develop love from this way and that way and this way, you can find something that you are really drawn to and really specialize in that, and that's beautiful. And also get like your fingers in all the pies, and that's also nice. You're never going to get it all. That's part of the deal. It's too much, it's too big. But a little about everything, and try to specialize in something and make it like your service. Okay. One more?
These stories, George. Oh my God.
I love that. There were 3 lines in here on page 125 that I don't know. I just keep rereading it over and over again. You are present in everyone's heart, and there is no need to search out the super soul anywhere else. If someone does so, he is simply in ignorance. One who is transcendental to such a position understands that you are unlimited. You are both within and without.
Jai.
Yeah, just that's it. It's everywhere. You just have to remember.
Jai. All right, so I know you all have dozens of other reflections, and you want to share them, but we can't right now because it's 8:05. So what you're going to do is you're going to go in the WhatsApp group and share them then, and you can call each other and leave voice messages, and you can put it on your Twitter account, and anyone still uses that site, and you can put it into other WhatsApp, and you can tell it to your friends at work,
Instagram.
and you can tell it to your cat, Aaron, and you can leave messages. Put it on the YouTube, leave a message on the YouTube channel, and we'll see you next week. So your homework is read chapter 14.
Yeah.
And you can read ahead if you want to. Haribol. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Shri Krishna Book ki jai. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare. May you all experience the divine humility of Lord Brahma.